Welcome back to Respoiled. Today, I have another captivating story to share with you. But before we dive in, if you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications, so you'll never miss out on all of my latest uploads. Now let's get started. It's a pleasant morning in New York, and people are delighting in Central Park. Abruptly, the crowd begins to act oddly, repeating words, freezing in the midst of the road, or walking backward. Concurrently, some individuals start screaming, and on a bench, a woman observes her friend muttering the same phrase repeatedly before using her hairpin to self-delete on the spot. Downtown, a group of construction workers takes a break when a body unexpectedly falls beside them. Initially, the others assume it was an accident, but soon another body drops, revealing that all the workers on the upper floors are also coming out to self-delete. They fall one by one, their expressions devoid of any emotion. Meanwhile, science teacher Elliot is informing his class about the mysterious disappearance of millions of bees across the country. A student remarks that there will always be events beyond science's grasp, which Elliot concurs with. The other students excitedly discuss mysterious events until Elliot is summoned to an urgent staff meeting. Passing other classrooms, he notices students reacting in shock to something on their phones. As all the staff gather, the principal reveals that the city is in a state of emergency. Terrorists have released a strange gas in Central Park, prompting people to take drastic measures. Consequently, classes across the entire city have been cancelled. Then the teachers inform their students they can leave for the day. Elliot departs with his close friend and colleague Julian, whose mother is panicking on the phone despite being in Philadelphia, urging Julian to bring his family over. Julian extends the invitation to Elliot and admits Alma, his wife, has been distant lately. At home, Elliot finds his wife Alma anxious as she repeatedly receives calls from someone named Joey, whom she avoids speaking to. She tunes into the news, learning about the increasing deaths in the area and the evacuation of New York. Soon, Elliot arrives, and they begin packing to evacuate the city together. The couple arrives at the train station and reunites with Julian and his daughter Jess. Julian's wife is stuck in traffic in Princeton and will catch the next train. On the station's TV, a reporter reveals that autopsies showed the toxin to be a natural compound. Julian makes a remark about the couple's marital issues, which upsets Alma, who dislikes their private matters being discussed openly. Meanwhile, in Rittenhouse Park in Philadelphia, a cop struggles to manage a traffic jam. Suddenly, as the wind rustles through the park's trees, most people freeze, and the cop uses his gun to end his life. Subsequently, the taxi driver exits the vehicle, picks up the gun, and follows suit. The gun is then taken by a woman, who also uses it to end her life. Meanwhile, Elliot's group is on the train, and Alma finally answers Joey's call, asking him to stop because their interaction was insignificant. Joey informs her that the same event is occurring in Philadelphia, and soon most people receive calls from friends and relatives reporting similar incidents in cities like Boston. Eventually, the train halts in Pennsylvania, and the workers inform passengers that this is the final stop due to the suspension of all train services. With lost communication, they are unable to offer assistance. Nearby, there's a small rural town, and the crowd converges on a diner. A woman receives a video from the Philadelphia Zoo, depicting a man entering the lion cage and being killed by the animals. On TV, reporters announce the government retracting the notion of a terrorist attack. The event is unfolding in the Northeast and spreading through small towns. Suddenly, the power goes out, causing panic, and people rush to escape in their cars. Elliot and Alma attempt to seek help, but everyone ignores them. Fortunately, an older couple who runs a plant nursery invites them to join, prompting Elliot and Alma to call Julian. However, Julian, who lost contact with his wife, wants to find her. He leaves Jess with Elliot and Alma, then joins a family heading to Princeton. Moments later, the couple stops by their home to gather supplies. The husband tells Elliot he suspects plants are spreading the chemicals killing people. Meanwhile, Julian's group reaches Princeton, only to find the area infected. Bodies hang from trees along the road, causing panic in the car. Julian distracts the girl by engaging her in a math problem. As he talks, he notices a hole in the car's roof. Suddenly, the car stops and crashes into a tree. Julian exits and uses broken glass to self-delete. Elliot's group drives away, hearing on the radio the latest theory of water contamination. As they leave town and reach the countryside, they encounter a road blocked by bodies, forcing them to reverse. At the intersection, they find cars from other roads, including an army truck, reporting similar blockages. Every direction seems surrounded by the toxin. Elliot attempts to call Julian, but he doesn't answer. Alma has missed calls from Joey, prompting Elliot to inquire about him, but Alma dismisses him as nobody. Hearing others mention the events originating in parks, Elliot considers the validity of the plant theory. At that moment, a woman reaches her daughter in Princeton, who reports everyone in town is deceased. The call abruptly ends with the sound of wind in the girl's room. Elliot comes to the realization that Julian is likely deceased and must break the news to Jess, comforting her as she breaks down. Subsequently, an army private and Elliot concur that due to the attacks targeting densely populated regions, they must avoid main roads. The crowd splits into two groups and begins traversing the countryside toward a small remote town nearby, potentially safer due to its limited development. As they continue walking, Alma confides in Elliot about Joey, a coworker she had dinner with while she was supposed to be working late. Though nothing happened, she felt guilty for lying, which caused her recent distance. Suddenly, the wind picks up, and the larger group freezes in place. The soldier walks backward and self-deletes with his gun. Elliot's small group hears the repeated gunfire, indicating others, including the nursery couple, are doing the same. Amidst the panic, Elliot demands silence and employs a scientific deduction method to analyze the evidence and draw conclusions. He concludes that the toxin is indeed spread by the plants, but it's only activated by large groups of people. Therefore, they must split into smaller groups. They divide into 3 smaller groups and scatter in different directions. Elliot, Alma, and Jess team up with 2 teenage boys and start running, but the wind soon catches up to them. They halt to shield their faces, and although the wind blows around them, nothing harmful occurs. Elliot believes this confirms the significance of group size. After much running, the group discovers the small town and seeks refuge in a house filled with fake decorations. Elliot cautiously approaches a plant in one room, asking it to be kind to them, only to realize it's plastic, feeling foolish. They take a brief rest and agree to depart before others arrive, potentially triggering the toxin. As they ascend a hill, they witness 2 groups arriving and merging into a larger crowd, immediately causing them to freeze. Only one man dares to start a commercial lawnmower, which quickly claims his life. Elliot's group continues their journey for hours until they stumble upon a radio attached to a fence. An emergency broadcast advises people to head to the west borders for police assistance. Exhausted and famished, the group discovers a boarded-up house and decides to take refuge there. Along the way, Elliot spins a tale about a flirtatious encounter with a clerk, soothing Alma's nerves despite the fabrication. Upon reaching the house, they knock on the door, receiving no response. Considering forced entry, they observe movement inside, halting their plans. Elliot politely requests assistance, but the owner refuses. The teens become confrontational, hurling insults and shaking the boards on the windows. Aggravated, the owner fires through a gap in the window, fatally striking both teenagers. Frightened, Elliot's group flees once more. Meanwhile, survivors in different buildings adopt diverse strategies. Some don masks, while others arm themselves with firearms. On television, a scientist discusses the escalating attacks, noting their increasing intensity and impact on smaller groups. Shortly after, Elliot's group encounters a house situated along an unused road, appearing deserted. Upon approaching, they encounter Mrs. Jones, who deliberately isolated herself from the world long ago. She permits them to lodge for the night and share provisions but insists on avoiding any discussion about the ongoing event. Mrs. Jones exhibits erratic behavior, shifting between moments of sweetness and reprimanding Jess for taking cookies she offered. Later that evening, Elliot and Alma converse in hushed tones while Jess sleeps. Mrs. Jones overhears them and accuses them of plotting against her, suspecting them of either intending to harm her or steal from her. In the morning, Elliot seeks out Mrs. Jones to convey something to her and is startled to discover an eerie doll lying on her bed instead. As he approaches, Mrs. Jones suddenly appears behind him, berating him as a thief and demanding his immediate departure. She then proceeds to her garden, where a sudden gust of wind causes her to move backward. Witnessing this, Elliot hastily shuts all doors and windows, but Mrs. Jones begins to break the glass in a distressing manner until her demise. As the wind gusts through the house, Elliot frantically searches for Alma and Jess. Although he can hear them, he struggles to locate them. Believing they might be in the cellar, he ventures inside, only to find himself alone. Unbeknownst to him, Alma and Jess are actually outside in an old stone spring house, connected to the main building by a speaking tube. Using this tube, Elliot communicates to them that the toxin seems triggered by even one person alone. After sharing heartfelt words and memories, Elliot resolves that he doesn't want to face his fate alone and steps outside. Soon, Alma and Jess join him, and they all hold hands as the wind swirls around them. However, nothing occurs, and the trio returns to the house, realizing that the event has concluded. 3 months later, Alma and Elliot joyfully live together while raising Jess. Alma also learns she's pregnant, bringing Elliot immense joy. On TV, a scientist suggests that the event was possibly a message from the planet, warning humanity about the extensive damage they're causing, indicating another attack may be imminent. Meanwhile, in a park in France, people freeze, and screams echo amid the swirling wind. Don't forget to like, subscribe and enable notifications for more content like this. Thank you for watching.